Hi Year 3, welcome back to our 3 o'clock reads. We're already on chapter 16. We have read so much. I'm really curious about the man that we met last time. He didn't seem very friendly. And now, I wonder where he's gone. What do you think's going to happen today? When you're ready, we can start. Chapter 16, The Explorer. The Explorer returned as they were roasting the Karakara, squatting outside their stone room with the meat on sticks. He held a cluster of mangoes balanced along one arm and a gourd of water in the other hand. They didn't hear him until he was very close. Oh, do you think he's brought the food and water for them? What do you think? Con jumped and dropped her hunk of bird in the ashes. The Explorer didn't look any of them in the eye. "You're all still growing," he said roughly, "especially the small one. It occurred to me the bird might not be enough." He flushed as he set the gourd down next to their fire, dropped the mangoes in Max's lap, and turned on his heel. Fred jumped to his feet. "Please, just a minute. We wanted to ask, what is this place? Do other people know about it? Do you live alone here?" "Why, we hoping to throw a garden party." "I meant, do other people ever come?" "Sometimes people pass by this place, yes." The Explorer squatted down, took Max's meat, which had caught fire, out of his hands and shook it until it went out. He balanced it in the tips of the flames. So Max was about to eat burned meat, and this man took it off of him to fix the problem. Maybe he's not as unkind as we were thinking. None of them stay long. Some are travelling long distances. Tribespeople, people whose ancestors lived here. They usually stay a few days. He twisted the chunk of bird in the tips of the flames. Juice dripped from it onto the fire. "But yes," he said. "In short, people do come." Con and Leela exchanged delighted glances. Baka, who was unusually full of energy for a sloth, waved one claw in the air. Can you wave as you imagine a sloth would wave? Probably really slowly, slower than I was. Practice waving like a sloth. "Would they help us?" asked Leela. "Could they take us with them to Manus?" "They might. Very possibly. Depends on the people." "How often do they come?" asked Fred. "Oh, every few years." He blew on the meat and handed it to Max. "That's ready." Fred saw Leela and Con sag. They each looked a little more tired, a little older. "Years," said Leela. "Our parents wouldn't be able to wait that long." "No, I had imagined not," said the Explorer. "But in that case," began Con, "couldn't you—" She stopped as the vulture flapped out from behind a stone pillar and came to rest against the man's knee, eyeing her meat. The bird ruffled its wings at her and called. Con held her food closer to her chest. Leela took up her words. "Could you help us get home?" The Explorer gave them a praising, sharp-edged look. "Perhaps." "Perhaps," said Leela. "I could point you towards Manus. It's a month's walk, or a week and a half by canoe. I could give you some provisions and a map. I might come a short way with you. I'll have to see." Leela's eyes lit up. "That would be absolutely "But," said the Explorer. "But?" Fred held his breath. "You will have to swear never to speak about this place, never to tell that you saw a city in the jungle. More than swear, you will have to prove to me that you will not." "What?" Fred stared at the Explorer and then past him, across at the stone landscape sprawling green and yellow and gold, away from them into the jungle. "Never tell about all this? Why?" "Or about me. Ever. All of you, including the little one." Fred searched the Explorer's face for evidence that he might be joking. "But my father will ask where I was." Fred had already imagined the conversation they would have, how he would draw for his father the layout of the city, how he would pace out the distance of the city square and memorize the measurements, how his father would squeeze his shoulder and tell him he had done something remarkable. He had imagined his father telephoning his friend from Oxford who worked at the Times. He had imagined his father's voice. "Tim, listen, my son has done something extraordinary." The man was watching him. and his face was not sympathetic. "It is very likely," he said, "you will have to lie to him." "But no! The whole point of explorers is that they tell people about what they found. That's what explorers do." "Exactly so. And I am not an explorer. I am a man who happens to be here. But people have been talking about a place like this for hundreds of years," said Fred. "You have to let everyone know that they weren't just stupid old men with mad theories. They were right." "Why do I?" "Because if this place does exist, it means they weren't fools. It means they were heroes." It meant, though Fred did not say it, that it was not foolish, not mad, to dream of being an explorer himself. "Heroes don't exist. Boy, they're inventions, made up of newsprint and quotable lines and photogenic moustaches." He grunted in disgust. "Can't bear moustaches myself. Grotesquerie mouth eyebrows, I always thought." "That's not true. Men died looking for something like this. They died wanting to prove to the world it existed." "People have died for many things. It is not difficult to die." "But you're wrong. The world deserves to know." Fred felt his forehead burning. He knew he must be turning red. I'm going to pause it there, and I want you to have a little think. Why is he turning red? We've done lots of show me, don't tell me. So what emotion do you think he's feeling if he's turning red? Did you guess any of these emotions? These were some of the ones I was thinking. But if they told, his name and Leela's and Con's and Max's would be part of history. Their names would be included in the list of great discoveries. As if he had read his thought, the explorer curled his lip. "And you, perhaps, wish to be the one to tell them?" Fred's head jerked backwards as if the man had flicked boiling water in his face. "It's not that." The explorer blinked a slow, contemptuous blink. "Isn't it?" Fred clenched one fist. "It would be selfish not to tell." "Would it?" For the first time, Fred realised the others weren't joining in. Con sat looking down at her hands. Leela was stroking Bacca with unusual intensity. Max was sucking his wrist, his mouth turned down at the corners. "Fred," said Leela. Her voice was very quiet, and she didn't look at him. "We need to go home." Con moved closer to him. She whispered hotly in his ear, "You're being ridiculous. Just promise whatever he wants to get us out of here." "No," said Fred. He edged away from her. Con's whisper became a hiss. "We can still tell everyone when we get home. How's he going to know? It's hardly going to be getting newspapers out here." "No," said Fred out loud. "I'm not promising anything." The explorer rose, lit red by the flames of the fire. The light shone on the scars in the crook of his elbow and on his knuckles. "I have asked you to perform an easy task, to keep your mouths shut. You are refusing?" "No," said Con. "We'll do whatever you want." "Fred, for goodness sake, just say it." "You can't keep it a secret," said Fred. "It's not your secret to keep." "Look," said Con to the explorer, "he might not promise, but he will. Can't you help us? At least he can stay here for all I care." But the explorer's face was growing red at the neck and white around his nose and mouth. His whole face cross-hatched with anger. "You," he glanced at Fred, "are a fame-hungry, thin-brained ignoramus. And you," he glared at Con, "would apparently happily desert your friend. You disgust me, the lot of you." "He's not my friend, not now." "Quiet!" Keeping his temper did not seem to be the explorer's speciality. His voice rose to a roar. "I see no reason to help any of you. Why should I? Good God, if children had any use, we surely would have discovered it by now." He turned away. He shoved his fists into his pockets and then drew something out. "I'd forgotten. I brought you this. I had not expected your response to my request. You, none of you, deserve it." Max let out a mew.
and curled up his knees. The explorer dropped the thing on the ground and strode into the dark. He reached the wall they'd fallen down and began to climb it fast, using both arms and only one leg, the other swinging loosely at his side. "Fred," said Con, "you're completely unfair, and you're welcome to die here yourself, but you've got no right to ruin everything for the rest of us." Max began to sniff and hiccup with the beginnings of tears. Fred picked up the thing the explorer had dropped. It was a screw of soft leaves, fastened at the top with thick grass. He opened it. Inside was a pinch of salt, mixed with some flakes of dried green something. "It's seasoning," he said, "for the bird." "Stop changing the subject," snapped Con. "Look, you've got to agree. Go and run after him and tell him you've changed your mind." "I can't." "Why not? You don't actually have to do it. You just have to say it." "I just can't." He thought of his father. He thought of going back to school, not just as that Peterson boy, the one with no mother, but a boy who faced down the jungle and discovered a whole world. "Please, Fred," said Leela. "Please do what Con says. Run after him. Our parents will be so worried. They might die of it." Max's eyes widened and Leela sighed. "I didn't mean it, Max. It's an expression." "It's too late anyway," said Fred. "You heard him. He won't help any of us now. He's too angry." "Because you made him too angry," said Con. "So did you," snapped Fred. "You can do whatever you want. I'm not swearing to a lie, all right?" "What, because you think you're so high and moral?" Max covered his ears with his hands. "No, because I won't, all right? Because it would be lying about the most important thing that's ever happened to me. He'd never know. You just want to get your name in the papers." "Yes, he would. He would find out, wouldn't he? Because people would have to come and try to find it again, to take photographs and do archaeological digs." "I don't care what happens once I'm home. This whole place can burn," Con said. "Stop it!" shouted Leela. Her voice rang through the courtyard. They turned to her in surprise. "Shut up, both of you!" Every inch of her body was stiff with anger. "You're both being disgusting. If it's too late, then there's no point in fighting. And if you both make Max cry again, I swear I'll punch you both." Max climbed into Leela's lap and buried his face in Bacca's fur. Fred swallowed. He tried to recatch his temper. He held out the seasoning. "Do you want some? We might as well eat it." "No, it could be poisonous," said Con. Fred withdrew his meat from the fire. It was black in patches and the skin was charred and steaming. He pulled off the skin with his fingers, wincing at the heat, and sprinkled a pinch of the salt and unknown herbs onto the bird. Defiantly averting his eyes from Con's glare, he took a bite. The first taste of it shot through his body. It was a flavour that got into your fingertips, hot and rich and wild. "Not poisonous," he said. "It's good." "Hope you choke on it," said Con. Soon it was entirely dark, but for the fire and the moon. The flames cast light out into the city square, throwing its corners into strange dusky shapes. Con shivered as a cloud swept past the moon, lengthening the shadows. Leela hunched over and began to search Bacca's fur for ticks, avoiding Fred's eye.